Hey, Ronny Dale here from fourwheelinginwesternaustralia.com, and I'm going to reveal to you guys the changes I've done to my Landcruiser. Now, I've had people just constantly asking me, why have you got rid of the canopy? What have you put on the vehicle? What have you changed? Well, here are your answers. I am going to go through the whole vehicle, but all the things that are already on there, very briefly covered. I'm going to go into more detail on the major changes that have happened since my review part 3, I think it was. So this is review part 4. It's not a modified episode because I keep changing this vehicle, and there are some other changes to the cruiser coming soon as well. So I'll have to do another video to show you those later. But for now, let's get into all the changes that are current. Okay, to make this video user-friendly, you guys can go down below in the description and you can click on each section of the vehicle, just so if you need to come back and if you want to have a look at what it is I've done, you can go straight to that point of the video. We'll start with the exterior of the vehicle, I guess. So the exterior of the vehicle. We'll start with the bar work. This is the second bar that I have put on this vehicle. I've had it for quite a while. This is the opposite lock, winch compatible steel bull bar with a thicker tube. The winch on here is a worn winch and it's only 9,500 pound winch. So roughly about 4 ton winch. It is sufficient for this vehicle, even though it's quite big and it's quite heavy. That size is sufficient. I do have a Superior Engineering diff pumpkin protective plate there, which has been used. On the front here, the number plate, I'm still not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to Google it. Just change the 3 to an E, otherwise it takes the fun out of it. On the actual bull bar, before I move to the side rails and all that, I have these brand new HXT, I believe they are. It'll be on the screen. Hopefully I'm right. Light Force spotlights. Now these were sent to me. I'm actually really happy with these. I'm going to do a specific review on this light, but they have 80 watts LED and they have 75 watt HID lamps in the middle. So it's a combination, it's 2 lights in one. On the bar here, this is for my sand flag. This is my second radio, UHF radio. And this is my AM FM stereo aerial whip, which I just replaced. Now people ask me where I get this from. It's called an Axis AM FM aerial whip. It's 1.5 meters long, so now you can find it yourself. So from the bar work, we have the side rail. Now this is still the opposite lock side rail that came with the bar. However, I have changed the opposite lock side step to a proper steel rock slider. This is custom fabricated by On Track Fabrication. I ended up going with this because I bent up 2 of the opposite lock ones. The opposite lock ones are fine for touring and stuff like that, but when you go on the rocks and on these hardcore tracks, which some people might call them, they do not hold up to the job. So I've got solid steel. This is like 3mm, very heavy duty. I have rested it on there already. And what Luke from On Track Fab has done, he's welded these opposite lock brush bar onto here where it's heavy. So you can hear the difference. This is fine with the thin metal because it's just a brush bar. It mainly takes bushes and stuff. This is still the Tracklander roof rack, shovel holder, Max Tracks up there. On top of the roof rack is my main UHF antenna. That gets really good range. It's 3 dB antenna, but I get a huge range on it, like 15 to 20 Ks if the conditions are right. Lights on the front. These are 2 100 watts light bars. I only really use these in the bush now when I'm going slow for spread, like when I pull into camp or something like that. I don't use them much anymore because those Light Force lights on the front pretty much do the whole job for me. So these may actually come down. Rightio, so now to the back. This is my new sort of favourite mod to the vehicle. I designed the tray myself. I did have a few good suggestions from On Track Fabrication who made it. This is what came out of it. Now it's not actually finished yet. This is stage 1. Stage 2 is a hoop bar on top. I'm going to have another wheel on the back, but that is for another video. But for now, the reason why I have a new tray now is due to a motor accident. Someone actually hit me in the back. So I've got the tray replaced, and I've obviously tipped a little bit of coin into it as well to get it to where it is now. This back piece is solid, and that is to hold the frame. These sides are drop sides. The tray is steel, but these drop sides are aluminium to keep the weight down. We've got storage boxes on each side. This one's got all my recovery gear and spare parts. The other side has got my fuel, my diesel gloves, all the diesel rags and all that. It is separate to the tray, so should I smash it on some of the hard tracks we do, they have these on the AutoCAD drawing, so they'll just knock out another one for me. Wheel arches are also separate, so they can be bolted on and off. So if I do smash these, I can get another set made up as well. So on the back here, I have tapered it down a bit. We've made the tray shorter than the existing tray I had before, just to reduce the weight and get a better departure angle. And the angle's just for looks. The lights are kind of just for looks. I'm really happy with how this tray's come out, but there's something hidden underneath the tray. Also made by On Track Fabrication are 2 custom diesel tanks, and they work on gravity feeding. They are 86 litres each, so combined with my 130 litre tank underneath, I have 302 litres on board. Still on the tray, there's so much to talk about here. On the back of the headboard, I can mount 2 of my spare tyres, 2 35-inch tyres. When this frame goes on, one will be hanging off the back and one on the front. Now the reason why I don't want 2 hanging off the back is I'm trying to reduce the amount of weight cantilevering over the axle, because the way these 79s are built, the axle is far too far this way and the tray hangs over too far. This tray, 4 people can actually lift it up and take it off and put it on. That's how light it is. The tray I had before, the checker plate was all solid steel. I think it was like 5mm thick almost. Bloody heavy, that stuff. So the floor in this one is just your thin aluminium. So it might crack down the track, but hey, I'll just get a new sheet and chuck it in. It's divided into 4 pieces. The wings are fixed to the bottom. The middle is made of 2 panels, so I can take it off and get to the fuel tanks and run some wiring through and anything like that, which I need to do. Rightio, I'll show you what's in this toolbox because everyone wants to know. They want to know what it is and how I've mounted everything. I think I need to oil that one up a bit. Alright, so this toolbox here is just your cheap Rhino storage case made in Australia. And on top I have actually got this mounting rail which you can get at I think ARB stores, and most stores actually do them now. But inside, voila, inside I have made use of space. Because the tray is shorter, I don't have a canopy anymore, it's tight on space. So what I've done is I've fixed everything, quick stuff I need like machete, silky katana boy, this is a metre long saw for cutting down trees, etc. And my camping knife, a torch. I've got reflective material here, so when I do turn it on, you can't see now, but it actually lights it up. When it's really dark, you get enough light to see what's in here from the reflection there. These canisters, this is something really new. It's from IKEA. I'm not sure what to put in them yet. I'm just experimenting with things like I always do. And I've also got a strip here. That's for when I'm cooking. I can stick my utensils there, stick a knife there, whatever. So in here, this is all my cooking stuff, plates for the barbecue, food, tools, anything I need around the camp pretty much, and welding gloves, tire repair kit, you name it, it's in here. And if it's not in here, it'll be in the other box, which we'll get to soon. What I've done here is I've carefully worked out that if I put my fridge here, my 60 litre ARB fridge, I can wedge my table down here, and my fire pit and my table have remained fixed and stuck. They have not moved. So that worked out pretty good. On the other side now, this is my temporary power box. I'm going to get a custom box design, which is a bit more friendly and that seals better as well. I'm pretty sure this one is the same brand as that green case, the Rhino brand. And you don't need to tell me, yes, this can be stolen very easily. My my viscous axe. So here we go. In this box here, I have my power board. I've got all my lights. You may or may not have seen them in a few trip videos. I've got my air compressor in here. I've got a third battery which piggybacks off the second battery. I have 2 first aid kits, trauma kit and a general first aid that's got all kinds of stuff in it. And yes, they get used. Fuse panels, all the other electrical gear. I do have an inverter in here as well. And in this storage case, I've got all my airing up gear, I've got my hose, got other spare parts, and I have a lot of miscellaneous things inside this box as well. Pretty much I've got everything with me. And a collage of stickers. You want your sticker on here? Send it to me. It's got to be overland related though. So as I said earlier, all this will be completely different next week, I think. And then the whole frame will be on. And then from there, well, I don't want to say too much. You're going to have to stay tuned for what's going to happen to the back. The tyres and suspension. Well, suspension hasn't changed. It's still EFS, XTR, front and rear shocks, coil on the front, heavy duty, leaf pack on the rear, 600 constant load, or it might be 500 constant load. I'm not too sure. I do have a triple airbag in there too, which I don't really use anymore because since the canopy came off, even with the tanks full and this tray load of all my gear, it is so much lighter. Probably because the tray's a lot lighter too. It drives so much better. I'm so happy to have a light vehicle again. And I'm noticing the wear on the rear tyres is a lot less too. The more weight you put on the back, the more you're going to wear those rear tyres, the more stress you're going to put on your suspension components and all that other stuff. Because it's not just a highway we're doing some really rough tracks. Anyway, onto the tyres now with the suspension covered. General grabbers. I have been told by some people that they are a cross between all-terrain and mud-terrain, but they are actually listed as an all-terrain, so I apologise to all you people when I mentioned it was a mud-terrain. But they handle pretty well in the mud. I'm actually really happy with these, and I'm going to do a comprehensive review on them, but I'm due for new tyres soon, so if you're a tyre company and you want me to test your tyres out, bring it on. The size is 315 75 R16, 0 offset on the front, negative 55 on the rear, and that is to correct the track because the front wheel track is 1.8 meters, the rear wheel track is 1.7 meters, and it's due to the fact that this has a 4.5 litre turbo diesel V8 in it, and to fit the engine in, they had to make the front of the car wider, which is why the front axle is wider, but the rear axle remained the same. So I am going to correct the rear track with some chrome moly stuff, but that is to be revealed in the next video when the frame's on. I'm pretty sure that's all the exterior covered. There's some major things going on in the engine bay too. Rightio, so now to the engine bay, and I'm back at PDP where everything has happened to the vehicle. Where all the custom tunes and all the engine upgrades and all the other bits and pieces that are in here. So I've had a lot of questions about these and it's been in there for a long time, but I'm now going to answer them all. First things first, we'll talk about the custom tunes. So I've got a Unichip Q4 and I've got 2 injector driver chips as well. So basically this 79, my 79 here, has been a guinea pig for a lot of research and development, or R&D, here at PDP. And basically every time I've gone away on a trip, I've got 1 or 2 new tunes to test out. And it's now at a point where I'm pretty happy with all my tunes. And the first number 1 tune is, because I've got a 5-map select, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tunes. The first tune is my daily driver, and I also use it on the highway. I pretty much use it for everything. It's really smooth tune, it's got a lot of power, but you can use the whole pedal, which is how I prefer it. Hence the custom tune. When I go off-road, I use tune 2 and 3, and they're a bit more doughy in the pedal, so a bit more laggy in the pedal, but that's how I want it because it works great in low range. Tune 1 is way too rapid in low range, and hence the importance to me to have a customizable tune so I can go and click through. So tune 2 is mainly for sand in low range, and tune 3 is a little bit softer, and that is mainly for rock crawling, so on the rocks. So I'm not feeding it too much. It's a really nice smooth tune. And then number 4 is basically a high idle tune, and I use that for winching, and I use it for airing up the tyres at the end of a 4x4 four-wheeling session. Number 5 is my factory tune, so I can always go back to my factory tune. Rightio, so that's the custom tunes pretty well covered. If you want to know more, just ask some questions in the comments below, because there's just too much to cover really. So I'll now quickly go through the upgrades that I've done as far as hardware goes to the vehicle. This is a standard intercooler and a standard turbo underneath. I haven't upgraded those two things because I don't need a ridiculous high power tune. My tunes are based on the RPM of between 1200 up to 2400, because that is where the real torque and power come out of these engines. It's a diesel engine. So what you don't want is just to go for the number figures, and you're going to end up at 3,000, 3,500 RPM before you hit your top torque and power. There's no point in being up that high. You don't want to be sitting at those high RPMs for too long, because that's where the engine wear happens. Now with these factory turbos, you can spike to 20, that should be okay, but you don't want to be sitting on 20 PSI for too long or exceeding that, because if you do that, that turbo will fail on you at some point. So therefore, all my tunes are based on that really good torque range. So just to emphasize my point of keeping within that torque range and keeping the turbo spool not too high, not too much boost and not too much rail pressure, not too much fuel in there, it all comes down to, if you want to go out in the middle of the bush, in the middle of nowhere, crossing the deserts in the middle of Australia, you do not want your vehicle to fail. You want to know that it is reliable. Now I've had this vehicle for 3 years and it's been fine, because I've stayed within those parameters. Enough of that, and I'll go on to some other important bits that I've changed. But let's start with the air intake. This is just the 3-inch snorkel, so I've kept it at that. In my airbox, I have a K&N filter, but to be honest, the Toyota factory paper filters are just as good. The best thing that I've done to this vehicle is change the alternator from the standard alternator to a water-cooled alternator. And the reason for that is, underneath the engine here, you have the diff, then you have the oil sump, and then guess what's next? Your alternator. That is how low they are on these vehicles. And you would have seen on some of my videos where 3 cruisers had alternator problems. That was from mud ingests in the alternator. So you pretty much got to carry a spare one with you. But I've now upgraded to a water-cooled alternator. They're not cheap. For me, peace of mind, worth the money. I don't have to worry about it. Tees into your heater system as well. That's how it keeps cool. Onto fuel management. I have a fuel manager secondary filter. That is one of the most important things you can do to this vehicle as well, this engine. A bit of dirt in the fuel can really cause you a lot of grief in the engine. So this is a pre-filter to the factory filter. Another noteworthy thing is the breathers, also an overlooked modification to a lot of vehicles. On the GXL Landcruiser 70 series from 2012 onwards, they have 2 breathers on the differentials because they have a mechanical locker in the GXL version. And the same thing goes for the front and rear. And I have one coming from the transfer case and the gearbox, as they share the same breather down below. So don't waste heaps of time and look for something that's not there, because I spent a lot of time trying to find that second breather. Down below I have a catch can, a Taipan catch can, the latest one, and that catches the extra oil residue going through the motor, and it traps it so it doesn't go through and clogs everything up. Roughly every 5,000 Ks, if I drain it, I get anywhere from 50 to 100 millilitres of engine oil out of it. All right, so stuff that you can't see in the engine because it's actually in the cab is my pillar pods. One is boost gauge and the other one is EGT, exhaust and gas temperature. When I'm on a highway, my EGTs don't really get past 400, rarely, but usually stay around the 300 to 350. Around town, 150 to 200. I'm on the beach working hard, going up hills, all that low range stuff where you're really working the vehicle hard. I might nudge 450, but it hasn't gone past that. So it runs pretty cool, which is hence the reason why I haven't been worried about upgrading the turbo and the intercooler. Another important thing, which is inside the cab, is my scan gauge 2. Get a custom tunes on your vehicle or not, I highly recommend getting one because you can really keep an eye on the water temperature, because you can't trust that analog gauge, because by the time it goes too hot, it's usually too late. My water temperature usually runs between 75 to 85. Now onto exhaust upgrades. This is the factory crossover pipe that's on the VDJ on these vehicles. And we have fitted this one on instead. Now, as far as power gains and torque gains, you don't really notice much on the numbers, but what it does is it allows it to come in earlier. So now my torque starts that little bit earlier. I've got a bit more early on, and the note that comes out of the back of the twin pipes sounds pretty cool too. So the exhaust that's on my vehicle is still the Redback twin exhaust system, straight through. As far as power and stuff goes and torque, I don't think it increases it much more than a 3-inch exhaust, because it comes out, starts as a 3-inch and then goes into twin pipes. But what it does do is makes a really nice note. I love the sound that comes out of it. What it also does is it keeps the tail end of the pipes cooler. These exhaust pipes, they always sit close to the fuel tanks, and it shares the heat, so it doesn't get too hot. Now onto my battery system. Now you've seen the third battery in the toolbox. It piggybacks off this battery here. That's my batteries, and my battery system is here on a custom bracket made by PDP. It is a Red Arc BC-DC charger, 1225 version it is. It can take solar panels as well, and I have some plans to do some solar power. I'm just waiting for the rear frame to be knocked up. Still on the battery system. Noco sent me this GB70. This is basically a jump pack. Lives under my passenger seat. Got your crocodile crimps here. You can charge it via your cigarette lighter plug in your car through that, or you can charge it even from a little mini USB port, and you can even charge your GoPros and your phone and stuff from this outlet here. Rated to start a 6-litre turbo diesel, this being a 4.5, it's adequate. But yeah, just wanted to show you, this thing here always comes with me, lives under the passenger seat. If I get enough requests for a review, I'll review this jump pack as well. Mapping wise, I used the HN7 from HEMA, but they have just sent me the new HX1, I believe it's called. It's at home on the table. Alrighty, so I've got some cool additions to this vehicle now, and I have removed something big as well. So let's go into communication, because we covered the GPS already. Now, communication wise, I used to have a big HF radio which sat down here. It's no longer there. I ripped it all out. I ripped the antenna off. That was a massive antenna I had on the front. I've gone and replaced that with this little satellite phone here. Here I've got my commercial grade radio. It's an ICOM 400. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I covered that in another video already. Behind this console here is another radio. It's a GME. It's my cheaper backup radio. We use 2 during tag-along tours. And then I also have a radio here. So that leads me on to this seat organizer. Now this seat organizer is by One Tigris, this company here. They actually contacted us to put one in the Jeep, and I jumped on the idea because I love seat organizers and I reversed them. So I kind of think outside the box of things like this. Now it doesn't quite fit the Cruiser, but I was going to turn it around anyway. So I asked for one as well, and I'm pretty happy with it. So on the screen is what it's supposed to be like, which is in Brian's Jeep. Acts as a seat cover, but he's also got the pouches on the back. And you can change the configuration on these. It's really cool. Spot, hang the radio off, hang these little lights and charging things for the cigarette plugs, little knife, all kinds of stuff in here. And it's all webbing, so you can customize it. In the middle here, I have my selfie stick. This is my Osmo, the DJI one, and I've mounted it here. That way when I'm on these trips, I can just quickly grab it and get out and record. That's pretty much it in the front here. You know, you don't need to see all the switches, you've already seen all those. Roof console here. This basically holds all my manuals up in here. I rarely actually go in here. I rarely use it because it's kind of awkward going up there and you're facing forward trying to get something. You want it in your seat organizer and the dash organizer, which I have as well.
Dude, where's the canopy? What happened to the canopy?
Why did you sell the canopy?
Well, 2 reasons. I needed a bit of money at the time, and I wanted to get these fuel tanks in. So the canopy paid for the fuel tanks and some camera repairs, not upgrades, repairs. We smashed one camera by accident. But that wasn't the main reason. The main reason was to get the weight off because I wanted to put the fuel tanks in, and she was very heavy. My old tray was 350 kilo, thereabouts, maybe 300 kilo. I can't remember the exact, but the canopy was 200 to 250 kilos as well. 4 guys couldn't really lift it. That's how heavy that canopy was. So all that weight on the back, and then you put your gear in, it adds up. And then I had 2 wheels hanging off it, a big fridge inside. It really added up. Since I've got this lighter yet stronger tray designed, it feels really light. That's why I got rid of the canopy. When I get the frame on, other things are going to happen. I don't want to spoil too much. It's going to be versatile, so I can do anything to it that I want, any chopping and changing. Thank you very much for watching. You can subscribe right here, and if you'd like to support the creation of content like this, you can go to patreon.com/RonnyDale. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.